You know how it is. One minute, you've barely heard of something, and the next, it's just everywhere. That's generative AI. It went from this super niche, techie term to something everyone's talking about, seemingly overnight. So let's dive in and figure out what the deal really is with this whole revolution. And when you boil it all down, the entire conversation really centers on one massive question, doesn't it? Is this new technology a game-changing creative partner? Something that's going to help us cure diseases and create amazing new art? Or is it a job killer, a disruptive force that's going to upend entire industries? The answer, well, it's complicated. All right, to really get a handle on this, we've got to rewind the clock just a little. We're going to break down what generative AI actually is, and more importantly, why this technological wave, which has seriously been building for decades, suddenly felt like a tsunami that just crashed into all of our lives. The pace has been just relentless. I mean, think about it. In 2021, DALL-E pops up and shows the world that AI can create these incredible images just from a text prompt. Then, just 1 year later, ChatGPT drops, putting this insane power into the hands of millions, and it just goes completely viral. Then, 2023 hits, and the speed just picks up even more, with GPT-4 taking a huge leap and Google jumping in with its own powerhouse model, Gemini. It was just one thing after another, and it changed the entire game. Okay, so what is this stuff, really? Well, here's the simple version. Most AI analyzes data. Generative AI creates brand new stuff. It's all powered by these things called large language models. And what they do is basically digest huge, vast portions of the internet. By doing that, they learn the patterns of how we humans talk, think, and create. And then, they use that knowledge to generate totally new text, images, even computer code from scratch. And the applications? They are absolutely staggering. We're talking about everything from an AI composing music or writing a movie script to generating art that looks like a real photograph, just from a few words of description. And in the more technical fields, get this, it's helping write complex software, speeding up the hunt for new medicines, and even creating personalized lesson plans for students. The potential to solve some of our biggest problems is just immense. So yeah, the potential really does seem limitless. But, and there's always a but, right? With all this power comes a really big, kind of scary question. What happens when the code gets it wrong? What happens when these automated decisions have massive real-world consequences? So let's talk about that. Let me tell you a real-world story of what happens when a company bets the farm on an AI-driven decision and it goes catastrophically wrong. It's a heck of a cautionary tale about putting a little too much faith in the machine, a little too fast. $34 billion. That's roughly how much market value the real estate giant Zillow lost back in 2021. The cause? Their fancy AI-powered algorithm, which was designed to predict home prices, just completely fell apart when it faced a wild housing market it hadn't been trained for. It started overpaying for houses like crazy, which led to these enormous financial losses and forced the company to lay off a quarter of its staff. It was a brutal lesson that a glitch in the code can have devastating, very human consequences. The Zillow story is a huge red flag when it comes to financial risk. But honestly, the dangers of AI go so much deeper than just money. We are now wading into a really complex ethical minefield of automated decision-making, and it affects every single one of us. At the very core of this is something that people call the black box problem. The AI just becomes so complex, so tangled, that even the brilliant people who created it can't fully explain how it gets from point A to point B. We see the data that goes in, we see the decision that comes out, but the why in between, it's a total mystery. And that leads to a huge question. How can we possibly trust a decision that we can't understand? This lack of transparency, it really opens a Pandora's box of really serious issues. We're talking about things like algorithmic bias, where AI actually learns and even amplifies our own prejudices. There's the very real threat of mass job displacement, the rise of convincing deepfakes that can spread disinformation, not to mention new ways for criminals to commit fraud, and just the general trashing of the internet with low-quality AI slop. Let's be really clear about this. This is digital discrimination, plain and simple. Because these AIs learn from historical data, if that data reflects our society's old prejudices, the AI will learn them too, and sometimes even make them worse. And this isn't a what if. We've seen real cases where AI hiring tools favored men over women, where healthcare algorithms denied care to people of color, and loan applications were rejected just because of somebody's zip code. And this fear of jobs being replaced, it's not some abstract idea about the future. It is already here. During the Hollywood strikes in 2023, the president of the Screen Actors Guild, Fran Drescher, called AI an existential threat. That's because writers, actors, and other creative people are already in a fight to protect their careers from being automated away. So what's the solution? Well, when people were asked what government should do about this, the number one answer wasn't what you might think. A big majority, 56%, said the focus should be on improving education and training. The idea is to help people adapt their skills for a new kind of economy, rather than trying to stop the technology in its tracks. And it's not just jobs that are at risk. The very quality of information online is being threatened by the stuff people are calling AI slop. Just think of it like the news spam, but on steroids. The internet is getting absolutely flooded with low-quality, sometimes nonsensical AI-generated articles and images, and it's making it harder and harder to find reliable, human-made information. Okay, so that all sounds pretty bleak, I know, but these problems are not unsolvable. The path forward isn't about stopping AI, it's about steering it responsibly. It's all about building a safer, more accountable AI by making sure we always keep humans in the loop. So what does that actually look like in the real world? Well, experts have laid out a pretty smart framework. First, you have to establish accountability. Someone has to be responsible when things go wrong. Second, you implement human review, especially for high-stakes decisions. An actual person needs to sign off. Third, you need audit trails, so we can go back and see how an AI made a decision. And finally, and this is crucial, you have to build ethics into the AI's design from the very beginning, not as an afterthought. Here's a really simple way to think about it. A hammer can be used to build a house, or it can be used to break a window. The tool itself is neutral. Its impact depends entirely on the person holding it. The exact same thing is true for AI. The responsibility, ultimately, lies with us. So there's no doubt about it, generative AI is an unbelievably powerful tool. It has the potential to reshape our entire world, for better or for worse. The only real question left is, how are we going to choose to use it?